South Korea. What a beautiful name for a beautiful country. And I'm not biased at all, even though I am South Korean myself. I do love my country very much. I would say, even though I'm from the US, I was born here, I wouldn't say I'm like really nationalistic about it or anything, especially with all the recent events going on. But and it's not like South Korea is that much better, but I appreciate the culture of my motherland. I'm just really into my sense of community and culture and all the rich history that we have. And one thing that I'm particularly interested is queer rights. Because you would never guess from what I'm wearing right now, but I'm also pretty gay, if I do say so myself. So let's begin. In July 2024, South Korea's top court ruled same-sex couples eligible for the same health insurance benefits as heterosexual couples. Now, this was ruled as a landmark victory for gay rights by organizations such as Amnesty International. But why? From 2001 to 2014, the OECD ranked Korea 2.8 out of 10, measuring acceptance of homosexuality. There is no statutory right to same-sex marriage or civil union in South Korea. However, from the 90s to around 2019, the percentage of South Koreans stating that homosexuality was never justified decreased from 67% to 24%. So overall, some progress is being made, but it's still pretty bad out there. For reasons of ingrained national, cultural, and social factors, I would say that LGBTQ+ rights in South Korea still face some massive hurdles. Now for some rudimentary legislation from the 2000s. The year is 2001. The National Human Rights Commission of Korea Act makes sexual inclination a protected group, which is the first recognition of gay people in Korean history. The National Human Rights Committee of Korea also ruled employment discrimination on homosexuality unconstitutional, and also they condemned the military's criminal code because it also punished, homosexuality with whatever. The year is 2006. Transgender people can declare their gender in the family registrar under certain conditions. The year is 2007. The Ministry of Justice proposed an anti-discrimination law, but then, due to pressure from conservative Protestant groups, it excluded gay people. The bill was ultimately rejected at the 17th National Assembly. The year is 2011. The Seoul Ordinance for Student Human Rights, pushed by Seoul's education chief, No Hyung-kwak, focuses on respecting orientation of minors, specifically students. Since 2016, there has been no municipal ordinance for human rights protection or student human rights ordinance, including gender identity or sexual orientation, which is a bummer. The year is 2012. Seoul Mayor Won-soon Park of the Democratic Party proposed the first Seoul Metropolitan Government Framework Ordinance, stating that, quote, all citizens' human rights shall be respected and shall not suffer any discrimination prohibited by relevant statutes, such as the Constitution and the National Human Rights Commission Act, end quote. The year is 2017. The Supreme Court of Korea allows the Beyond the Rainbow Foundation to register as an official charity, which had been a 3-year-long battle. Let's talk about current attitudes. But first, a fruit break. Does this count as cannibalism? In South Korea, sexual orientation and gender identity are not necessarily criminalized except in the military code. And this sort of legal indifference has caused this sort of social environment in discrete areas of cities, such as, with bars, clubs, shops, cafes, and especially internet communities where people can avoid public stigma. Although there are a few pockets of community here and there, LGBT people still have very few rights in South Korea, as you may have gathered. This has led to a surreal social compact in which technically gay people can partake in all of Korean society and culture, but only as long as they fulfill certain requirements. And this is all because Korean society has a deeply instilled sense of heteronormativity. Data from 5 waves of the World Values Survey in South Korea from 1996 to 2018 indicate that young adult women generally accepted homosexuality more than young adult men, with 30-plus-year-old adults holding similar attitudes regardless of gender, and older adults tending to exhibit less favorable attitudes. It is interesting to note that all this is coinciding with the rise in Korean soft masculinity, such as gonminam, which literally just means flower, handsome man, with more sympathetic portrayals of homosexuality in the media, in K-dramas, and also the entertainer Harisu, who came out as transgender. There's just a lot going on in terms of representation that I feel like also does not really reflect actual Korean society. Of course, this isn't to say that South Korea is like a bastion of progressive media. I just think that in terms of popular media, their boundaries are a bit more fluid when compared to actual societal or cultural views. And now for some religious and cultural context. The main factors for some acceptance of homosexuality in South Korea include democratization and rapid economic growth. However, there are some equally big factors for rejection, including Confucianism and religious influence. Although Confucianism isn't necessarily a religion, it's deeply ingrained into the values and morals of most Korean citizens. And this has highly influenced anti-homosexual attitudes because Confucianism specifically emphasizes values of family honor, social harmony, obedience, traditional gender roles, and sexual morality. These heteronormative Confucian values also happen to coincide with, you guessed it, Christianity. 27.6% of Korea's population is Christian, and Korea has the largest Pentecostal church in the world. So it's no surprise that, evangelical and Pentecostal Christianity in particular strongly encourage a heterosexual family. South Korea is the only East Asian country that has both rapidly and deeply absorbed Christianity, specifically conservative Protestantism. You may have noticed that in a lot of anti-LGBT stuff I mentioned, I mentioned the Protestant right or the far right or Protestant groups. And that is because in the 90s, especially conservative Protestants were worried that homosexuality was just a Western conception that was going to sort of corrupt their society. And that leads Protestants to be at the very forefront of the anti-LGBT movement. And even in recent times, in a 2022 study, the Korean General Social Survey, it turns out that Protestants are much more likely to carry negative attitudes toward homosexuality than non-religious people. And when we go back to factors for acceptance and factors for rejection of homosexuality, there's like a common theme of Western influence in both, which I find really interesting. So with the democratization and rapid economic growth, both being a product of the introduction of the United States and with the IMF financial crisis kickstarting this sort of series of events in recent Korean history, and with the factors for rejection, the religious influence is Protestant Christianity specifically. I just think it's really interesting that both sides that can contribute to accepting or rejecting homosexuality are both not completely domestic issues. So, throughout this video, what did we learn? Korea is kind of a sucky place to live in for gay people like me. But to be real, I really think that these sort of hurdles, as in the Confucian attitudes, the religious influence, it just feels like Korea does not seem like a country that will soon make significant progress for LGBT individuals. Which sucks, but that's life, I guess. Thank you so much for listening to me rant for about 10 minutes, and I guess I'll see you when I see you. Peace.